Hello, this is Paloma. I come back with the story the sky is telling for the next few days. Um, we are entering the second half of August, and I just finished my Spanish videos today, and they weren't very short, so I'm going to do my best, but there's a lot going on. To start with, I would say we're going to need some temperance, moderation, absolute and total flexibility, openness, and trust. Because I think perhaps things are not going to end up like we imagined them, and they're going to change, and that's okay, and that's fine, and that's perfect. This is a very interesting sky that is asking us to have a very wide space inside to maybe hold what looks or feels like contradictions and still maintain center and neutrality in our point of view. To begin with, the energy feels very accelerated, very fast, and I believe perhaps the best strategy when this happens is to be very intentionally slow in our movement. It feels a little counterintuitive, but I think it will give us more agency in terms of how we're going to manage the energy. Because in the sky, there's like these configurations that are starting to build up. It's the possibilities of restructuring, completely restructuring reality. And this is a blessing because it's not always so available for us to have the energy to make movements that transform the experience at this level. Of course, this requires decisions, choices, commitment to this reality that we long for, that we want to experience and create. And this will test our attachments, our fears, our resistance, our resilience, and the truth in our hearts. So the first thing this week is that we have the conjunction of Mars and Jupiter in Gemini. This is an opening conjunction, and it's in the school of the messenger, of the sacred message. So this change in the narrative, this telling a new story about who we are, this is an ongoing, and it gets a great expansion right now. It's an expansion of creativity, expression, communication. It's very big. It's an alignment that puts action and will into growth, accelerated with an important dose of adrenaline, I would say, because Mars, it's invigorating the energy of an already quite restless Jupiter in Gemini. So in the best of senses, this can be energy that invites us to focus ourselves in this timeline that leads to expansion, and to put our body or to align our bodies with our speech. Now it's like a walk your talk kind of energy with your philosophy and expansion of gratitude and hope even. But the thing is, Jupiter also amplifies Mars, and Mars can be the energy of war, right? So there is a situation that could like trigger battles of ideological beliefs, religious. It's like a crusader kind of energy, and also looks like an enormous display of different speeches, information, options, debates, possibilities, and doubts that can be quite overwhelming. So looking at this energy and this acceleration, we could get overwhelmed and get distracted as well, like having an overload in our nervous system, or our mind being overstimulated and our body feeling a little restless. This is when to come into the practices of breath, of mindfulness, of grounding, of just going slower so we can actually access discernment. They are in Gemini, right? So they are answering to a Mercury retrograde. This is the thing. So we don't have all of the information yet. We don't have the lucidity or the access to the virtuosity of our minds, because we are in a process of updating our filter of perception, right? So we might change our minds. We are, in a mutation process in terms of where we stand. And Mercury is moving from Virgo into Leo at the moment of this conjunction. So there is a going back into our hearts. And because he's going to be at the last degree of Leo when this happens, I would say we need to be careful with the very strong passion of this school of love in its shadow expression, which is pride. right? And so there is all of this energy about speaking our truth. And then the configuration could bring us into a place of wanting to impose our truth. So I would be careful with this. Actually, I think the 4 agreements are more applicable than ever. They are always applicable, but for the next few weeks, it's so important, to be impeccable with our words, to not take things personally, and to please, like, really not make assumptions, because we don't have the whole picture yet. We can just do the best we can do, and that's what's in our hands, really. This I bring forward because it is an energy that speaks to raising our voices, and I think that's beautiful. Let's just be clear, let's be assertive, let's be compassionate, and perhaps even do the inner work first, so that we don't become, we don't turn our words into weapons, right? Because it is a moment that speaks to the power of speech. So writing, perhaps journaling, can assist us in giving some order to our ideas, and also understanding the underlying motivation for speaking, for that which wants to be named, and also knowing when it is truly relevant to appeal to sound, to voice, or to silence, right? When I was looking forward into the year at the beginning of 2024, I looked into this moment, and it seemed like the Babel Tower moment, So we're going to have to be a little patient with this. I think discernment is much more available in our bodies, our intuition, and our hearts right now than in our thought processes. And so going slower may allow us to notice details, to make adjustments, to be fluid, to be adaptable, and to breathe, simply breathe, no? And maybe pause when we need to. Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. Saturn in Pisces is creating a square to this Jupiter and Mars conjunction. So there is a limit, a boundary, a sobering moment that actually might be quite humbling, because if we were going too fast, we might feel frustrated or even angry, right? So this is really like a combo of energy. The precise dates, they go like on Friday we have Mars squaring Saturn, and then in the midst of this really erratic, intense, and quite illuminating of consciousness, full moon in Aquarius of the 19th, we have the exact square of Jupiter and Saturn in Pisces, and we are already feeling this. And this is gonna stay within the energetics of our experience for a little while. Especially this square Jupiter-Saturn is it's gonna be running for about a year. So this is the first moment. We're gonna have a very powerful moment on the 24th of December this year, and then next year around June again. It's gonna be a process. We can walk through it together. But for now, knowing that this is actually, I would say, the main alignment of the moment, right? Because it triggers a lot of social movement. Also, in a personal level, I would say there is a questioning, an inquiring about our integrity. If we are truly tuning and aligning our intent, our word, our actions with our visions. This is a sky that can get noisy outside. We can get distracted. But the big lesson here comes from Saturn. And he's testing the commitment of our souls. It is a checkpoint on the building and creating a new dream, personal and collective, and it is calling us to respond for the time in which we chose to incarnate and the implications, because we are the first wave. We are the ones opening up and creating the foundations of a new era. So I think that restriction that Saturn brings, it's actually benefic, because the other energy is just so wild. Wild in a sense that it can lose touch with reality, no? And Saturn will make us recalculate movement with a lot more discipline, temperance, and wisdom. I think this is one of the big moments of this year. It feels to me like polishing or like honing, no? And polishing a diamond. It reminds me of this book, no, Blade Runner, which is really about, the skill of becoming masters, because it's going to be very fast when we see and feel the consequences of our decisions and how we're going to respond to this. Okay, so it happens in the within the alignments of the full moon in Aquarius, but I will speak to this full moon next week because there's just a lot to unpack about that energy. So focusing on the square of Jupiter and Saturn, this is already really big. These are social planets. Jupiter and Saturn are like a manifestation couple. They are complementary, really. It is with them that we create the agreements, like the consensus of reality in which we coexist socially. So they have a lot to do with the experience of the middle world, I would say. Saturn contracts, Jupiter expands. This is the pulse of life, of manifestation. It's breathing, it's our heartbeat, it's the movement of the earth. It is a natural movement of life. So this apparent contradiction of their impulses is really the way in which life regulates itself in order to be creative and manifesting. So to live really the expansion and the benefits of Jupiter, we have to first do the sacred work of Saturn, which is responsibility, maturity, discipline. When we work with Saturn as the master of reality, then Jupiter can come in and raise us into this higher purpose, and he's like a spiritual mentor that allows the opening of our consciousness, right? So like any dance in the sky, they have their cycles. This is an opening square, we call it, which is very much like a first quarter in the moon cycle. It's a tension that it's like a test for the seed of the conjunction, right? So when were they conjunct? And they were conjunct in the solstice of December 2020. This was called the Great Mutation or the Great Conjunction. I don't know if you remember. They conjoined in the 0 degree of Aquarius, where Pluto is right now, actually. And they were opening up a new cycle, a 200-year cycle of conjunctions in the element of air, which changes the dynamic of the experience of reality in Earth for us. And it moves towards the social realm, the humanitarian, the interconnectedness, the collaboration, the community, the exchange, communications, technologies, consciousness, freedom. That's what we are moving towards. So I think we all went through a threshold, a point of no return in 2020, and something awoke inside of us, you know. This union in Aquarius told us that we needed to do things differently, and life showed us this as well. This is the school of the visionaries, of innovation, of the prayer for the future. This is a school that stewards consciousness and revolution. So this is the first square after that seed, 4 years after that. We are in a checkpoint about this commitment with the building of a new reality, one in which we ought to do things differently, no? Where authenticity and freedom are the path towards new ways of organization, social organization, collective organization. Like the human collective needs to find new ways of creating consensus of reality and new agreements, right? So what, I mean, in a personal level, what woke up inside of you in 2020, no? And how are you in terms of honoring that awakening of your consciousness in your life and your relationships today? Because that's the test right now. So right now, this square is happening in mutable signs, which are Gemini and Pisces. This will be different for the next few encounters they have. Yet these Gemini, Pisces energies, they're about duality, you know, the two fishes, the two brothers. It's like mind and spirit, communication. It's like rational and intuition, both hemispheres of our brains. It's really interesting because the big lesson, as I said, comes from Saturn. So we ought to identify these spaces in our personal astral charts. It's a 17th degree of Gemini and Pisces. I hear it like a calling to, without any doubt, become accountable and responsible for something that has come to its time, you know, especially on a spiritual level, because we are in a culminating process, in a culminating cycle, as I said. So it's about surrendering ego also, detaching ourselves from the drama, rising above into a place where we can hold in an inclusive embrace with compassion and neutrality, because this is a retrograde Saturn. It's contemplative in its energy. So what is coming to ripeness or maturing inside of you? What karmic cycle are you giving in right now? It is a moment of humility, of surrender, and yet right there as well of choice with your soul. So it's a big contrast, as you can see. No, there is this very fast-moving energy, Mars, Jupiter, like unleashing all of this information. But there is this stop, breathe, manage your choices, decide with temperance, accept the limit as an invitation to claim sovereignty, creative sovereignty inside of you, because you are the teacher. This is what Saturn is teaching us. No, it is a moment for you to respond from that place, from that authority. At the end of the week, Venus is going to join the party and create a T-square. She's going to oppose Saturn and square Mars and Jupiter. And this is one of the two T-squares, which are very tense energy, that are part of the full moon, right? So in terms of relationships, finances, value, there is this very stressed energy that therefore becomes a very decisive breaking point moment. This is what happens with so much tension in the sky. Something tends to give in, to break, so we can actually create change. That's why this is a moment with such potential towards creating change in your lives. So what are you and who are you committing your energy, your time, and your resources to and with? And is this truly responding to your vision for the future, to the intent of your soul, and to your revolutionary prayer? You know, is this really showing self-love and self-value? At the same time that you surrender your ego, personal will to a higher will that is the master within. It's a moment of honesty, of maturity, of accepting that things are different than how we expected, and responding then with all our creativity, with all our love. And it's also, for me, it's like learning to meet ourselves where we truly are, you know, and not where we wish the other person was, or even ourselves. And then when we meet from this place of truth, there is actually a witnessing, a true encounter, and new paths can be opened. And these paths may be different, may be unexpected, but they are coming from truth, and therefore acceptance, love, trust, and absolute respect for the path of every soul, beginning with your own path. So that, my dear family, to end this information, at the end of the week, as part of the full moon, but I do want to start mentioning some of the aspects of it, Mercury is going to create its second square to Urano. This already happened on the 21st of July, will happen for the third and last time on the 7th of September, so there is a development of this story. The information we receive, or even the information we share, might be disruptive, and it's there for that. It's for awakening us, so we can come out of inertias and in truth commit to this dream that we want to manifest in earth. So this is not the final moment. We are healing our perception. We are becoming transparent. The world is showing us more of what we have to see in order to decide, to choose with awareness, with presence, with heart and soul. It looks like there's movement, there's change, and there's also always the resources, the joy, the curiosity, and the community, I would say, for us to navigate and enjoy the ride, my dear family. I have some offerings. Most of them for now are in Spanish, but I will try to organize so I can make an offering of ways in which I can accompany you through this time, because this is really the beginning. After this full moon, the next full moon is going to be an eclipse, so we're entering eclipse season. So from now until November, I would say there is an intensity in the sky. Intensity isn't good or bad, it simply is. It's just that sometimes we need different tools, resources to manage the energy in a creative way that allows for fluidity and joy, you know? So, well, I'll keep you updated on this, and thank you. Blessings.